Now, AGU, the St. Kitts and Nevis recently suspended indefinitely residents and citizens of Syria. Could you give us, from the CBI program,
Yes.
could you give us a rationale for that?
We knew, and the world has just heard, that the group ISIS,
Yes.
the Islamic State, that is based in Syria and has been the government of Bashar, what is Assad,
Sure.
what his name is. And the question is that these are fundamentally Syrians who went and attacked, carried out, as it was, terrorist activities in Paris just a few weeks ago, in which a number of people had been killed and so on. And there has been a worldwide upsurge of sympathy for the Parisians, for the French, and the concern that here these gangs, these people, are now moving out into other countries. And so, as a precaution to protect our program, we felt that anyone from Syria would be suspended because of this background.
One question before we open the lines to the public, and that is, you are chairman of the recently launched, established Criminal Justice Strategic Board.
Yes.
And that board comprises of a number of stakeholders, basically to look at justice, to look at crime, and how that can be managed in the country.
Reduction can be managed.
Reduction. Now, recently, the leader of the opposition rubbished what the government is doing in terms of its crime fighting initiatives and its crime fighting plans. You probably would have heard about it. Do you have anything to say about that?
But I must confess, I haven't heard what he has had to say. So it would be...
He said it's not working. What the government is doing is not working. Do you think it is working?
Well, it's very difficult to say, because when one is fighting crime, it is something, it's a societal problem that has taken time to grow and develop. It doesn't happen overnight. And to reverse the particular crimes or to reduce crime, it will take time in whatever you're going to do. And I think that we as a people need to give the police and the plans that they've come forward with and are trying to implement time to see if they can work. It is not 6 months since the police have launched a 6-point plan. And it would be unfortunate, it is unfortunate that the former Prime Minister should say that such a plan is not working without giving it time. He would know better than us that if you are going to implement policy in relation to social problems like that, that they must take time to be able to take root and move forward. You mentioned, for instance, about the Criminal Justice Strategic Board, and whereas the police themselves have been taking the lead on developing a set of plans to address some of the very serious problems we have. The Criminal Justice Strategic Board is to look at, as you said, the various stakeholders, the agencies involved that can also assist the community at large. I spoke about the prisons earlier, the courts, the defense force, customs, fire, various agencies, health, education, that are involved with social issues, probation office, youth justice, coming together, and instead of working as standalone, independent silos as such, the Criminal Justice Board, Strategic Board, is to act as a networking, into a supportive group where that we all will now be able to establish certain goals, certain tasks that are measurable. And we will then be given account on how we can improve on those. Simple example, I mentioned earlier that there are some 60 people on remand in the prison. One such measurable task would be, we need to reduce the number of people who are on remand, say by about 10 over the next 5-6 months. And so when we come back and we can measure, have we been able to put policies in place, tasks in place to be able to do such a thing? If it takes you 6 months to get to court to have your case tried, we said, boy, that's too long. We need to do it 4 months. These are measurable things that the criminal justice system can do. If it is that we need to arrest more people or to be able to do certain issues in terms of crime, the plans take time to take hold and be things. So it's unfortunate that the former Prime Minister, who would have been Minister of National Security, and understands that when you do policy to change social behavior, that it takes time. For him to make, as you say, I have not heard it myself, to make statements that I don't want to use the word irresponsible, but that are a little racy. It's unfortunate that that's happened, but I would just say that I have confidence that we have put in place the particular framework, and we have to motivate, inspire those who are working the system, give them time to produce the results that we would expect them to produce. So that is how I would answer that. Before you go to move forward, I wanted to mention one other thing, not related to criminal justice, strategic. Go right ahead. And that had to do with questions of, because we were talking about economic activity and so on in relation to the CBI. But I also want to talk about economic activity and how it can affect us. Some of what I do that affects the business community and people generally, our citizens. And that is one of the programs that we are hoping to have implemented early next year would be to create a land registry. I think that those who purchase property and who have to get title at the High Court registry, people have been frustrated over time because of the nature of what happens. It takes quite a bit of time to complete the transfers, for titles to be produced, deeds, and so on. It affects banks. It affects inland revenue. It affects business. It affects people who want to go and get mortgages at the bank and move forward with their lives and have a better life, quality of life. And so it is one that is of concern. We know that the World Bank, in their rating of countries around the world, the ease of doing business, have rated us as 121 out of 188. That has slipped from being in the 90s, especially when it comes to the question of conveyancing titles. We are 170 out of 188. So it is of grave concern that we put in place a program to improve on that significantly. And so we will be establishing a land registry as distinct from the High Court registry that's dedicated, as it was, to managing, to filing, to processing.
Any time frame in terms of when that will be implemented?
One would hope that it would happen 3 to 6 months.
In 3 to 6 months time.
Because we'd have, of course, to provide the particular office and staffing and so on. But it's already been in place in train, and we have already began to work on such a program. It is going to be one of the planks of our budget estimates going forward for the new year, and so we will be putting that in place as well. I think it's important to make that statement.
Now, AJ, we need to put on our earphones and listen to the people. It's important to listen to the people and to take their questions. Of course, that's all a part of the good governance structure that Team Unity Administration has pledged. And so